Hello everybody and welcome back to Hearts of Iron, where we are very close at this point to finishing up all of the purchases that we can do. But we're not there yet. We've still got more to do here, so let's scroll all the way down to the bottom of this list and let's see what we can do here. Okay, so Sweden's unwilling to give us that, sure. We know there's going to be some that are still on cooldown, but we are absolutely making solid progress here. Brazil is unwilling to part with some of that land. Okay, fair enough. And let's see what all we can get. Excellent. Significant chunks of South America coming in here. That's what we like to see. There's even some Sweden. I like it. Okay, so let's go ahead and do infrastructure. Some of this is going to be impassable that we just purchased. Like this down here, that's going to be impassable. So nothing that we can do there. We can get a little bit going up over here, and then anti-air up this way as well. Perfect. And then a little bit of anti-air down over here. We are going to need a fair number of coastal forts. We'll need one there. We'll need one here, here, and here, apparently. That's very tiny, but it's honestly a little easier to click on from out here, I feel like, than when we zoom in. Just because of all the icons. Okay, so we'll just make our way through here. I missed a spot here. It's very difficult to tell, but I did. There we go. It was just like 3 pixels. Hilarious. Okay, let's zoom in and make sure I got that. Yeah, okay, perfect. So that all looks absolutely fine for now, and then we'll get some civilian factories going. So we need these out over here, of course. And then this down here. Perfect. And then out over this way, we'll need a little bit, but I don't think there's going to be too awful many civilian factories that we need to do here. No, mandatory Palestine is not ready for independence. It's mandatory, it's not independent. Okay, I believe we need a construction there, and indeed we did. We need one here, and then that should be about it. So that seems fine, but we do not have all of our factories in use at this time. So we can go down here and queue up a few land forts while we wait for some of our political power to come in. And that'll get our factories back to business. Of course, we're going to have to start thinking about our war with the Allies, which is going to have to happen eventually. And the question is, when do we want to do that? I'm currently leaning towards doing that perhaps next episode. And it may be a several episode war. I don't expect it to be particularly long. We'll just have to clean them up here and there, but some naval invasions will have to happen. And then after that, the idea is to just wrap up this particular series. So we'll see what ends up happening with that. I'm anticipating there being maybe like 5 more episodes in this series. Something like that. Probably not very many. So we want to just get everything purchased that we can before then, and I'm hoping to have that wrapped up this episode. So we're just kind of killing a little bit of time here. We know that some areas were denied to us, so we have to wait for them to wrap up, right? We have to wait for their cooldown to reset. And then we have to try again and hope that they pass this time. At a certain point, though, we'll probably just fight the Allies. At a certain point. But I don't think we're quite there yet. So let's just get this little area over here queued up, and then we'll call it good for this for now. There we go. That'll do. And then we can check in on some of these. So as we can see, there's only a few available here. Apparently the game is over. Again, this is the second time the game has ended. Okay. That's exciting. Apparently this was considered the World War. Hilarious. That's the second ending of the game that we've seen at this point. So we'll just see about getting more purchases here. We managed to get some from Brazil. More from Brazil. Okay, unwilling to part with their land. That's understood. Sweden is really unwilling to part. Interesting. Now Brazil is as well. That RNG was pretty mediocre. No doubt about it. Well, at this point, there's no more hostile takeovers for us to roll. So I definitely want to continue to allow the hostile takeovers to reset. But there's not all that much that we got out of that one. We got a few locations, and the number of locations that we can get is, of course, highly limited. We do need to be thinking about what we want to do in terms of the war with the Allies, right? We're going to have our war goal up here, High Consul, up here, I think, expire eventually. If we declare this war, the Allies would come in. So the question is, do we want to allow that to expire? I don't think it's actually that big of a deal if we allow it to expire. So for the moment, I think it's reasonably fine. And I do want to make sure that, yeah, these coastal forts are all good for the moment. Okay, so at this point, we just need to be building civilian factories. And no, the Netherlands is definitely not ready for independence. We're not letting anyone have independence at this time. If we wanted to play this game out to its quote-unquote conclusion when everything is done, then that would mean an entire world conquest where we would take over not just all of the Allied locations. Okay, yeah, here's this. Not just all of the Allied locations, but we would take over all of the neutral locations as well. We'd core everything, and we'd annex all of our vassals. That is a long time in the future. And I don't think that we should actually do that, because we're not going to have any opposition, right? It's not going to be very interesting. So we can just declare victory after we've completed these last couple of objectives, and I think that'll be absolutely fine. So we can try to buy Galicia again. We got it that time. Excellent. So we're definitely running out of places to buy over here. I'm going to close this. Let's see. Yeah, there's nowhere... maybe here? I suppose we could technically buy this state, and not this one. So there is one additional state that we can buy in Iberia at this point, before we're completely done there. There are a few states up here in Sweden that we're very interested in purchasing. But for now, what we really need to do is, I think we need to be thinking about the status of this war, right? So these are the Allies. That's a lot. They've got a lot of little spaces here, including all of this out over here, which is going to be kind of awkward for us to get to. So we would have a lot of fronts here, that's for sure. But we can just clean them up one at a time. We can assign one army to each front, and then as they get cleaned up, we can change it around. We could even get our Coast Guard split up into a bunch of little armies, and it would probably be fine. So there's all these neutral nations that I don't think we particularly care about for the purposes of this. So I do want to be thinking about that, but I don't think we're quite to that point yet. Now, we don't have anything that we can purchase here, so I guess we may as well. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to just go through the list of these. I'm going to leave the Coast Guard where they are for now, but I'm going to get started on this. So these guys are currently off over here. Now, I don't think we need both of these armies here, and in fact, I don't think we need these guys here at all. So I would like to move them over to frontline against Sweden instead. So we're going to move them down over to here, and I want this entire army over here. Thank you very much. And then these guys, we're going to want them elsewhere. So let's go into the factions map mode here. Let's have them come down over to Moscow for right now. Okay, so we'll just do something kind of like that. I'm going to delete this order. So that sounds good. I'm also going to delete this order here. Okay, so that's fine for the moment. In the factions map mode here, we can see we're going to need some stuff down over here. So where are these guys? Well, they're currently frontlining against Chile, which is part of the Allies, so that's fine. Let's check in on this army. They don't have orders, and they're currently way out over here. Now, this is part of the Allies, but we have our Coast Guard here, so I'm going to redirect them over to Riga. We're going to have them go sit about here. Okay, then we've got this army, which is currently out over here. They are going to head down over this direction and frontline right here. So that's all fine for now. Where's this army at? They're being redirected. Okay, they're going to the Soviet Union. That's fine. Where's this army? So they're currently frontlining against Chile. That's okay. Although we don't need both of these armies here. So I'm going to move one of these armies over to Uruguay, which is part of the Allies. And then we're going to delete these two orders. So they're just going to head right on over. That seems okay. And then that was, what, this army? Yeah. So next up is this army, which is currently frontlining against the Mexican Socialist Republic. Sounds good. What about this army? They're currently frontlining here, which is okay. This army is frontlining here, which seems good. This army is frontlining here, which actually is fine, is it not? Yeah, that's fine. They're frontlining against the Allies. This army is not doing much of anything at this moment. So let's have them come on over and frontline right over here. There we go. And then we've got this army here, which is in this area already, but they're going to need to be frontlining down over this way. That's not the button I wanted to press. So we're going to have them frontline down over here, but this is actually going to be expanded. So I'm going to select half of these, and we're going to have them frontline here, like this. Although this is very, very awkward. I'm going to take an additional 3 or 4 units from here, and they're going to frontline here. This is definitely not ideal over here. They've got a lot of troops. That might be a problem. We'll see. Where are these guys? They are currently here. Okay, I'm going to have them come in and frontline down over here. Now, this is impassable here, so I'm going to grab 3 of these, and these guys are going to be stretched pretty thin. Right, this is going to be a little bit awkward here. Okay. Something like that. It's going to be rough. Okay, these guys out over this way, I think they should then just come down in front line like here. So we'll do something kind of like that. And then we've got this army here. And they're currently down this direction. And where do we want them to go? Well, I'd kind of like them to come out over here. And the idea here is that we're going to clean these up one little pocket at a time. And we're going to take losses in the beginning of this. Absolutely, that's going to happen. We're going to take losses, we're going to get pushed back, and there's just a lot of fronts here, right? We can definitely get more fronts covered, though, with our Coast Guard. And I'm going to do just that. I'm going to have this small Coast Guard unit right here. They're going to come down and do this. There we go. We're just going to ignore our coasts over here, and it's very likely that these guys out over here, they're probably going to naval invade us somewhere. So there's that. Now we've got this out over here, and I want to grab 24 units from here. I don't really care what 24, but I'm going to grab 24 units. Okay, that's 15, 18, 19. This is moving on me. Awkward. That's 23 and 24. So we're going to split this off into a new unit. And the theaters don't really matter anymore, to be honest. But we're just going to have them come over here and frontline. And we should probably have a commander here. We'll assign this guy. And we can do that all the way throughout here. So this one is only at 22. So that can now be assigned to frontline, I don't know, maybe like here. Yeah, I'm aware of that. So we're just going to frontline about like that. And then can we move this guy over to here in this? No, that's a little unfortunate. So I want to select half of these, and we're going to move that out into a new army. And that's only going to be 21. So we're going to need to promote up a new field commander. That's fine. And he's going to be right up on top here. So where are these guys going to go? Well, do we have anyone frontlining here? We do. So I kind of just want to sweep over this way then and find locations where we're not frontlining, like this. Okay, so there we go. And then this unit is fine the way that they are. They are going to come out over this direction, and they are going to frontline down here. No divisions assigned. Let's make sure that they're assigned. Okay, there we go. Next up is going to be a unit here. I'm going to divide this in half, and then I'm going to deselect down until we've got 24 units here. There we go. And then I'm going to split that off into a new army, show field commanders. We'll promote this guy, sure. It scrolls to the bottom, but it puts him at the top. That's a little awkward. Okay, so I want to check to see what all is ally down over here. Okay, noted. This is going to be hard for us to reach. We're probably going to have to naval invade that. I'm not too concerned about that for the moment. So these guys are going to come down over here. And then we've got this front here and this front here, right? So at this point, I want these guys to come in and frontline. Yeah, that's fine. They're going to come in frontline here. And then we're going to grab these lads, split them in half, create a new army, and this is going to be a new field commander here. We'll promote this guy up. There we go. And they are going to come over and frontline here. So at this point, this is getting pretty significant. We've got a lot of forces that we are arraying against the allies here. That is all of the African holdings down here that we can reach. There are still some African holdings up here that we're going to need to get to. We are running out of forces, of course, and that's absolutely expected. So I'm going to just do something kind of like this, taking this down to 24 units. We're going to put in a new commander here. We'll have to promote one. There we go. And this guy is going to come and frontline here. So this is going to mean that Africa is going to be cleaned up quite quickly. We can now divide this in half and make another new army here. This is going to be another field commander, but we don't actually have enough command power for that. So for now, we're going to have to leave this one unled, but that's okay. So let's get that in there, and then this army is going to be placed probably down over here at this point. So let's go ahead and do that. There's definitely still territories out over here that we need to do. So let's go ahead and divide this army and then get that split down to 24. There we go. Make a new army here. We can't make a leader here yet. That's understood. And we're going to need to have them frontline against Portugal. Now, Portugal may be smaller by the time we actually pull this trigger. That's okay. So next up, we're going to need to... Does this guy not have orders? It looks like he is still in defending territory. I'm pretty sure I gave him orders. Maybe they're not assigned. Interesting. They are redeploying, but I want to... Okay, yeah, they must not have that order. So that means that they can be deployed out over here against the French. That looks good. And then we've got this army here, which needs to be split in half and moved into a new army. Then we're going to have that be frontlining against, like, Romania will be fine. And then these guys are the only remaining force at this point. They're going to go to the Polish People's Republic. But as you can see, we've got places that are part of the Allies, like out over here, but we don't have forces for. And the same thing is very much true in South America in particular. Not so much in North America. Asia, we've got pretty under control. Australia, this is sketchy. We'll see how that goes. Africa should be good. And Europe is going to be reliant on making rapid progress in some areas, right? So that's absolutely fine, but we'll have to keep an eye on that. Okay, so we're letting our forces deploy at this point. I also want to check to see if we can buy any more territory yet. We can. We can try to buy a little bit more here. There's really not much, but we can try to buy a little bit from Portugal. We got it. Fantastic. I believe that's all that we can get from Portugal now. Rio de Janeiro from Brazil. We got it. That cleans up one of those unprotected fronts. Next up would be another unprotected Brazilian front. They're unwilling to part with that. And then there's Zulia from leftist International Venezuela, which we have very little up over here at this time. Okay. So that sounds good. I would be delighted to clean up more of this. So next up, where is this at? That looks like it's written in Portuguese. Ah, islands. Okay, right up over here. Unwilling to part with their land there. Fair enough. So that's absolutely understood. We do have some unassigned divisions, 16 of them. I'm going to make that into a new army, and we're going to put that, I think, in Europe. I'm less concerned about losing ground in South America. I don't want, like, something like this to break out. So let's go ahead and head over here for right now. Now, we can do things like checking our logistics network and getting everything built up and all of that jazz, but I don't think we necessarily need to. I think it'll be more interesting if we don't, to be honest. If we have errors in our deployments here, I think it'll be far more interesting than if we just crush everything, right? So I'm just going to leave it be. We'll address problems as they come up, and there will be problems. And we're okay with that. In fact, we're delighted by it. So we have another Marine division here, just a singular division. And I think I'm going to start putting that into some of these out over here. Now I'm going to start some recruitment here, and we are apparently infinitely recruiting Marines. Let's not do that anymore. I'm going to train infantry and armored divisions. We're going to have the locations be down here for now. I don't really care too much where. This is fine. And we're going to do, I think, 4 divisions at a time, because I want to fill out some of these armies. Actually, let's do more than that. Let's do 12 divisions at a time for each. Okay, and then we'll just toss them in at random. I don't really care that much about the compositions. Like I said, I want there to be issues at the outbreak of this war. And we're on track for issues, that's for sure. So that's absolutely wonderful, and we are just checking to see if there's any more purchases that we can do. At this point, the answer to that is no. So that's understood. Now, another thing that we could do is we can scrape off some of these units and form additional units to get coverage in a couple of these extra areas. We need, like, 3 additional areas here, and then, of course, there's this down over here, but this is not part of the Allies, is it? No, that's part of the Corfu Cooperative. So, yeah, we don't need to worry about that. So that looks good. Do we still have a unit up here? No, those are no divisions assigned. I'm just going to delete these. Okay, there we go. So that looks good at this point. Well, good adjacent. Anyway. We'll get some of this training completed. I definitely want to fill out some of these units. These are mostly full, and these were designed to be that size. It's the Coast Guard units that are a little bit sketchy, particularly this one. This Coast Guard unit is very sketchy, and I want to get that reinforced for sure, ideally, before we launch this war. So the question is, who are we going to launch the war on? Well, I think we need to do the same thing that we did with the war with Britain, where we pull them in via treaty, rather than directly declaring on them, because the Allies still have territory that we can purchase. We're not eligible to attack any... Well, we're eligible to attack some of the Allied people. Like, we're technically eligible to attack France. We don't have a justification on France. We could make one. Our troops are pretty outnumbered here, I would like to point out. And that's going to be the case for some of these. But we'll get some of these... Wow. 295 divisions here? That's going to be a problem. They do have a lot of divisions built up. But they're not going to have an easy time replenishing those divisions. And they're going to take, I think, pretty heavy attrition from having that amount of divisions in these areas. Like, we can see that they're apparently unable to find a valid path to target. These guys do have about 500,000 manpower, so yeah, it's going to be spicy. I'm not terribly surprised about that, though. So we're going to take some early losses in this war, but some of these fronts will be cleaned up, and some of them will not. Some of them will clean us up, and we'll just have to isolate it out and figure it out, right? We can buy a little bit of Sweden here, which we'd be delighted to do. Looks like they're giving it to us, I think. Yep, fantastic. What else do we got? Well, a little bit of Brazil over here. That would be good, but they did not want to give it to us. We can try to buy a little bit more of Sweden. We got it. Excellent. So next up, we're going to, of course, build our infrastructure up over here. And we'll build our anti-air up over this direction in these newer locations. That looks fine. I'm not going to build coastal forts, though. That might backfire on us. We'll see. You can leave your offerings to the engagement gods in the form of likes, comments, subscribes, and bell ringings, and I guess I didn't do the full outro there, did I? Well, that's exciting. Next episode, we're probably going to declare this war. I do want to give it a little bit more time because we can continue to roll up a couple more of these hostile takeovers, but there's really not very much left there. So it is almost time to do this. You can leave your offerings to the engagement gods in the form of likes, comments, subscribes, and bell ringings, and a very special thank you to all of the channel members for making this video possible, including ALS Gamer, Dark Horse, Ethan Feldman, Upper Cumberland Gamers, Nick Smarty, Dimitri H, Punching the Microphone, The Lounge, STL, Rornaz, and all the rest. And of course, you. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to support the channel, you can click the join button down below the video, and as always, I will see you all next time.